Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jordan from Just Tesla, and today we're going to be testing Autopilot against the Great British Roundabout. We all know what Autopilot is, right? It comes in different shapes and sizes depending on how you categorize it. We've got Autopilot, we've got Full Self-Drive, we've got Hardware 2, we've got Hardware 3. Lots of different gewgaws and gadgets, all delivered from Tesla. What I want to do is talk specifically about the cars that I have driven. So here we are approaching the first roundabout in the Model 3 with just a standard Autopilot. And I had no problems, and I was excited at this point because I'd struggled to tackle roundabouts so far. So yeah, I was excited at this point. But yeah, fairly simple, small roundabout, no problem. There's a big issue with Autopilot, and I think it's a huge issue that Tesla are facing within the UK if it ever gets past regulations. Fingers crossed it does. But what is it, you might ask? It is the humble British roundabout. I hear the American audiences asking what the hell a roundabout is. Actually, whenever I've driven in the States, I've not noticed any roundabouts. There may be roundabouts. We do have our own intersections, but we use them in place of intersections quite regularly. They're extremely popular in the UK. We have big ones, we have small ones, we have giant ones, and we even have mini ones, actually mini roundabouts. On roads like these, the car handles it really well. Nice long roads with clear lane markings. This is where the car does really well, and you can do quite a few miles if you've not got many intersections and traffic lights to stop you. So we have a nice queue of traffic approaching this roundabout, and that's slowed the car down. Now there was 2 lanes, and it's decided to go in this lane, which is fantastic because that's where I want to go. We've got approaching vehicles from the right to give way to. Although I'm touching the wheel, the car is still doing all the autopilot itself. Here we go, no cars coming. And it's over again. So again, very happy at this point because we've struggled with quite a lot of roundabouts. So this was quite a surprise again. Because Tesla is developed in the US and the autopilot and full self-driving miles that the car is collecting to improve the system, most of those miles are in the US, it's less likely to come into contact with a roundabout. Obviously it will, but it's less likely to get data from a roundabout. Slow down, and I've had to take control. So it wasn't, because there wasn't clear enough road markings for the car to pick up on, it just wanted me to take control. I'm a bit nervous about it as well, so I didn't want to curb the car either. Now, I want to state this. I'm aware that all 3 of the cars that I've been driving do not claim to be fully autonomous vehicles. Although one does have the full self-driving package with all the thrills attached to it. But none of them claim to be full self-driving. And none of them claim either to be able to tackle a roundabout. I'm very aware of that. So I'm not stating that Tesla are claiming it will tackle a roundabout, but I thought, why the heck not try? So this is what I would call a large roundabout, and for me, the car's not done bad in these situations. Let's see this on this occasion. Oh yeah, no, it was drifting into that right lane a little bit too much. Now it has made it round in the past, but on this occasion, yeah, it was drifting into that right lane a bit too much for my comfort. We have the Model 3 Standard Range Plus with what I believe to be Hardware 2 and just a standard inclusive autopilot. That's the one you get for free. We did not pay for the full self-driving package. Then we have the Model S with what I believe to be the original hardware, might be Hardware 1, maybe Hardware 2, but it has the full self-driving air quotes package on it. And then we have the Model X with the newer hardware on it, not Hardware 3, but also has the full self-driving package, supposed package on it. Just trying it around a curve here. There was good road markings, but it still didn't click onto the road markings on this one. It was quite a sharp turn. Tackling these roundabouts with these 3 vehicles has taken some balls of steel. And if I'm being honest, like I said before, I like to be in control. So letting the car take control is really hard for me. Now, I've got used to autopilot and I think it's amazing, but that's that motorway kind of driving where I'm confident in the system. So this is a little bit different for me. So now we're approaching a very large roundabout. So I just want to say again, Tesla never stated anywhere on the website, anywhere within the car, or word of mouth or anything like that to me, that the car can navigate through roundabouts. And I'm aware myself that I may cause damage to the vehicles, and that any of these attempts are on my head using it, because they don't say that you can actually tackle roundabouts. And unfortunately, the car's coming, and I just couldn't take the risk with the car. If I'm being honest, I wasn't hopeful going into this. I know it's something I've wanted to test the systems against for a while, because at the best of times, even people struggle with roundabouts. So it's something I wanted to put the system up against just to see how it coped with it. So on all the tests, the car never took note of who to give way to. So obviously, that's the case. The car's not full self-driving, it's not aware of other vehicles. When full self-driving is here, how will it navigate our weird and wonderful rules? In the UK, the car should give way to the right on a roundabout, or give way to the right. But as expected, it didn't any of those times, and none of the cars did. But that was completely expected. So it's handled half the roundabout, not too bad. But the road markings go here, had to take control. No road markings. Car didn't want to go round, slowed down a little bit too much for me, and because there was no traffic ahead of me, I couldn't really put it into autopilot. Small roundabouts were a hit and miss. We're talking, the car made it round around 50-50, I would say. So I'm trying to turn. So this roundabout is the roundabout I'm talking about. This is a medium-sized roundabout. The car wants no business going around here. I think I try this again, but what I was trying to do is turn the speed down, because the car's not putting the speed down. I'm trying to turn it down to about 15-20 miles per hour, just so I feel more confident doing it. If the roundabout was almost straight over, it usually was able to use the roundabout, so long as there was no other cars approaching from the other directions. And the only other cars on the roundabout were the ones in front of me. So here's another medium-sized one. And yeah, I had to take control again. So it gave me the old alert to take control of the wheel. So just in this circumstances, I would give the Model 3 tackled the smaller roundabouts the best. So that's the Model 3 Standard Range Plus with the standard inclusive autopilot. Nice little roundabout, straight over. No problem. And it handled the roundabouts the best here. Because the car was smaller, the chances of curbing the car were lower, which gave me more confidence. And the other cars, being bigger, the Model S and X, they made me extremely nervous. So I didn't want to curb the rims. So whenever it was playing up a little bit, I'd take control of the vehicle. So there's a tight little roundabout coming up here. And yeah, I think because the cyclist was there, I don't think I wanted to take the risk again. Model 3 was definitely more confident for me going over the small roundabouts. So medium roundabouts. Medium roundabouts were the biggest problem for the car. I don't think we made it round any of the average size roundabouts, not even on one occasion. So yeah, I'm trying to slow it down, the car down to around 20, just to see if that helps whatsoever. Medium size roundabout. And I think someone was approaching from the right, so again had to call the whole thing off. And at times it would have been extremely reckless to allow the car to follow through with what I wanted to do and to follow through with the test. So I would take over. Needless to say, I mean, I pushed it as far as I possibly could safely, but nonetheless, there was no winners here because nobody made it round a medium-sized roundabout. So retrying this little one here, taking the speed down to 20, see if it does it. And yeah, straight away, not really tackling the roundabout at all. So then we move on to big roundabouts. Now, these sometimes include traffic lights, multiple lanes, clear lane markings, less need to give way. And at some point in time, all of the cars made it round one of these. So this was maybe another 50% of the time kind of thing. Again, it was quite frightening, but it felt very similar to tackling windy roads because they were larger roundabouts. With slow-moving traffic, the cars handled these roundabouts very well. But if I had to pick one winner out of all of them, it would have been the X. So again, this is the what I would call medium-sized roundabout. And straight away, didn't want to turn, well, it didn't want to go the direction I wanted to go, so I had to take over again. Again, I just want to say, I know Tesla does not say that it will tackle these kinds of situations, but it's a little bit sad to see the full self-driving vehicles handling all the tests similar to the Model 3 standard inclusive one. I think if you had purchased one of the Model X's or S's a few years ago and you'd purchased a full self-driving package, I'd be a little bit knocked, if I'm being honest. So luckily, on all these shenanigans, I didn't curb any of the cars. Whenever I feel uneasy with the car's decisions, I just take control straight away. Anybody worried about autopilot, the car doing something it doesn't want them to do, it does happen. The car sometimes will slow down when you don't want it to slow down. Medium-sized one again. And yeah, I wanted to go right into that curb, so I just had to take it control. So there's a lot of people who are willing to curb the car in the name of science. That's not something I'm willing to do. But you can instantly take over the car, and if you're an alert driver, you're absolutely fine. So trying to explain what it feels like to take the wheel off the car when the car is driving and you need to take control of the vehicle. It feels like somebody's got their hands slightly on the wheel and you're just pulling it. And as soon as you pull it away from them, they let go. It's very simple to take the car away and it's instant. There's no time delay. So if you are just about to curb it, if you take control of the wheel, it's instantly take control. So what I was liking is the visuals that the car was giving me here. So it was picking the cyclist up. I was picking all the cars up around me. I've heard of many issues and mishaps to people's Teslas online and through using autopilot. And a lot of those issues could have been avoided if the driver had placed the correct confidence in the car. I think there's too many drivers over-trusting the car. And at the moment, I think that's a mistake. And whilst I can understand that in the US, you might overtrust the car, the systems are a little bit more confident over there. In the UK, I just don't think it's up to scratch yet. Again, they don't claim that it is. And I think the problem is that some people are having a slightly too much confidence or reliance on the system. So now we're in the Model X with the full self-driving setup, approaching a roundabout. Again, I'd call this a medium-sized roundabout. Car gets into it. But yeah, I had to take over here, I think. Tesla never state that it drives itself yet. So, just bear that in mind. And so many people have spoke about their rims getting scratched because of autopilot. It can happen. You might notice the cut on my right leg. I had a mishap with a Stanley knife. When you're on an A road or a motorway or something like that, and you have not even autopilot, if you just have the adaptive cruise control on, you should feel a lot more safe because the chances of you crashing into the back of somebody or somebody crashing into the back of you are a lot less. And for me, that's one of the biggest things for me. That's one of the biggest game changers. Knowing that I won't be plowing into the back of somebody because I dozed off or I had lapse of judgment or concentration, which I never have had, but it's a big stress for me. And one thing that's shocking for me is why is this not being implemented in every single truck and major bus company and lorry drivers? Like, why is that not happened in the UK yet? Why is it not happening around the world? It should be mandatory. When queues of traffic pileups happen, people are killed because truck drivers are unable to slow or because their load's so heavy that it doesn't matter if they brake, they're going into the back of somebody. If they had a system that recognized people braking ahead of time and all lorries and trucks had those systems, there'd be fewer deaths from those kinds of accidents. Why are they not implementing it? It seems obvious. So approaching another medium-sized roundabout in the X on autopilot. goes into it, and it knew straight away it didn't want to take it. It was going with too much speed. So again, I just took over again. If you're traveling journeys like this, it's where, here we go, roundabout.
No.
Nah, taking over again. So we're in the X again here. So yeah, if you're traveling journeys like that with the A road and you hit roundabouts, you're just going to have to take over and take control of the car. Everyone who's experienced autopilot or full self-driving will know at times what it feels like to be driven around your car. It's such a nice feeling. It's so relaxing at times. And the idea that it could do 100% of the work is just a great prospect to think forward to. I cannot wait. I've said this so many times on the channel, but the day I can fall asleep in the car and wake up in London or Paris or Barcelona, it will be amazing. And I really am looking forward to those kinds of abilities to be able to do that. Approaching a mega roundabout. Let's have a look. Nah, I see. Some of it I feel like if it was super quiet roads, maybe I could give it a better chance of getting through the roundabout. But again, I'm not 100% confident in the system. Look at that smoke coming out of his Range Rover. A little shake of the head there, was not happy. Don't try doing this in your own Tesla. It could and almost definitely cause damage to your wheels, your car. So I did it so you don't have to. So I don't even think I think I'd come up this roundabout earlier in the day and it had no chance. So I thought I'd just take it round myself. If I'm being honest, if you've got any of these packages, just don't use it on roundabouts unless you've got a journey that you take daily and you've noticed that the system handles that roundabout fantastically, then maybe it's something you could keep on your journey. But if you're testing it on roundabouts and stuff like that, personally, I wouldn't do it. Large roundabouts, again, like if it's on your journey, it might be worth something that you can test once or twice just to see if it handles it well. So not a roundabout, but this is really interesting in the Model X. The Model 3 has also done this junction. Very nice. It's a very curvy junction. And the car, yeah, it picks the speed back up. The car manages to handle most of it by itself. And I've taken over there. But yeah, it's quite a long curve and it manages to do it itself, so that's quite good. There's a roundabout at the top of here, but I think I probably will bottle it because I'm approaching it way too fast. Let's have a look. Oh, we're down to 20. It's got into it and taken control. So you can see on these medium-sized roundabouts, the cars just won't go round them at all. Another roundabout approaching, so we're right next to the Grantham supercharger, so if you go there you're familiar with this road. And again, taking control. Too much speed going into it, was heading towards the curb a little bit, so yeah. So yeah, this is where the Grantham supercharger is, just over on the right. In the UK, because we're in this sort of limbo at the moment with full self-driving and autopilot, where the autopilot system and the full self-driving system can be more hassle than it's worth. So sometimes you can try and use the full self-driving system and it's just not worth it. So it's just, if you're new to using the autopilot and the full self-driving, it's just being aware of when it's appropriate to use it. If you're traveling from your city to another city and you're using motorways and A roads, it's fantastic. The car will do 95% of the journey. Roundabout sign, we're coming up to one. Car's still doing it, all the work itself. Down the middle, I think I tested it a little bit here. No, bottled it again. But yeah, the car just wanted none of it. It was out of control again. Approaching quite a large roundabout here in autopilot. See what it does. It's on the roundabout, it's doing it, and no, it was blinking on and off, and that is that. Nice slow approach to this roundabout. No. A lot of the time, as you'll know when you're using autopilot, as it gets closer and closer to pulling into the roundabout, the autopilot just gives up, and that's why you have to take over the wheel. So this is with use of navigate on autopilot. Car's doing a great job here. Slowed down for the junction, pulled off, and now it's approaching a roundabout. Navigate on autopilot's on, so it's slowing itself down towards the junction. I'm supposed to take over at this point with the accelerator. Car's asking me, but I thought I'd approach it, but no luck again. Car's in control. It's trying. It's doing a very good job around this one. And taking over halfway through. So that looked more impressive. It actually looked like it knew what it was doing. Like I said, this is the Model X with the full self-drive. I don't know if that makes any difference, if I'm being honest. I think the Model 3 would have probably handled it just as well. Sorry on these shots, it's a little bit dark. The sun was setting. What is the answer? What is the conclusion? Can autopilot handle the UK British roundabout? The answer is don't count on it. The autopilot is not that great around roundabouts yet. I think a lot of the times I got round was probably just sheer luck. And Tesla don't claim it to be capable of roundabouts yet either. So the Model X in situations like these is very good. Heavy built up traffic, you just feel super confident in the vehicle because you're high up and you've got a good road. You can see all the traffic around you because of your ride height, which I really like. Back in the Model 3, approaching a medium-sized roundabout. Car doesn't want to do it straight away. Now this is when I first originally had the Model 3, so I was even more nervous at this point. I maybe would let it go a little bit further into it, but yeah, that's all I was going to give it. So this is a very large roundabout. This is near the M1, or it is pulling onto the M1. This is with the standard autopilot that you get in the Model 3. Tackled that. You have to be in the right lane to do this. Tackled that. And then it's pulling onto the M1. And I think I might take over here because it's going a bit too slow for my liking. Yeah, it was going a bit too slow, but look at that. Handled it, no problems whatsoever. And that's the Model 3 Standard Range Plus with the standard autopilot that's included in your purchase. So, personally, I wouldn't use autopilot roundabouts. That's just my opinion. As always, thanks for watching. You have been wonderful as always. If you're thinking of buying one of these fantastic machines, please use the link in the description. So many of you guys have been ordering Model 3s in the comment section. So cool to hear. But if you do use the link below, you get 1,000 free supercharging miles. I get 1,000 free supercharging miles, and it just means that I can do more driving in the Tesla, and it helps support the channel in the only way possible that we can get support on here at the moment. So thank you so much. As always, that's Jordan from Just Tesla. Thanks for tuning in.